The teacher handed it to her too, but she just shrugged, saying that it was nothing. This surprised us, and we began to ask more persistently. "It's okay, I told you. He just said I didn't have to be afraid. In short, it's all a hoax, just leave me alone." Strange, I thought. Everyone was upset because they were expecting something interesting. After the next lesson, at recess, we discussed who came up with what story. Vera said that she also came up with a story about parasites in the body. Ira said that her story was about a maniac, and Olia wrote about a girl whose skeleton had become very fragile, one might say glass. The last lesson dragged on for a very long time. My hand was already aching from writing. When the bell finally rang, I wanted to scream at the whole school. After leaving the school, everyone felt relieved. The guys, as always, ran forward. Igor was the fastest on his scooter. Suddenly there was a creak of wheels and a car horn. We quickly ran to see what happened. What we saw shocked us. Igor was lying under the wheels of a car and screaming in pain. The teachers came out, called an ambulance and took us away from there. On the way home, we were very worried about Igor. The next day, his friends discussed that everything had happened the way he had thought of it. We didn't really believe it. School was more interesting that day. In the drawing lesson, we learned how to draw kitties. It was very sweet and exciting. Suddenly, during the lesson, Azalia began to vomit on the table. The teacher started swearing. Her urges did not stop, but only intensified. Her leftovers were all over the table. And then there was vomiting with blood. It was very scary. The teacher got scared and ran after the nurse. Azalia was suffocating. She fell and lost consciousness, and blood continued to flow from her mouth. When the teacher returned with the nurse, we were told to leave the classroom. Then the head teacher came and took us to another class. After 10 minutes, she got a call and started crying. She said that Azalia was dead. It really scared me. Those who communicated closely with her said that everything happened just like in her story. I didn't know what to make of it. I hoped it was a bad joke. The next day, on my way to school, I met Vera. I really hoped that there would be no more accidents. We started talking, as always, and she told me that this morning she found her story on parchment in her briefcase. And she doesn't understand where it came from there. The first lesson was literature. As always, we barely made it to class. Tamara Nikolaevna was already hurrying everyone to take their seats. "Well, today in class we will check how you read the story without me. Who's ready first?" At one point, we all started talking about how we hadn't read any story, and that actually another teacher had replaced her in the last lesson, and we were writing an essay with him. She asked to be silent and asked, "Yes, and who was replacing me, I wonder?" Everyone said in unison that it was Herman Grigorievich. "We don't have any, don't make it up," they agreed here. We all started to get indignant. "Okay, everyone, shut up, make a joke and that's enough, let's continue the lesson." The teacher did not believe us. She began to call us to the blackboard and put deuces. Suddenly my friend Vera screamed. She clutched her face, and the teacher came up to her. Blood flowed. The teacher was scared and took her hands away from Vera's face. Huge worms were coming out of her eyes. Everyone screamed and ran out of the classroom. An ambulance arrived quickly and took her to the hospital. While there was all this fuss, I went to Vera's briefcase to pull out the parchment and show it to the teacher. But as soon as I pulled it out, it crumbled and turned into dust. When Vera was picked up by an ambulance, we were sent home. We walked together with Olia and Ira and discussed how this is possible. But there was no answer, except that it was just an incredible coincidence.